Hey everyone, Daddy here with another review. This time, let's look at new books for April 25th. A little bit of a smaller week, but still some great books here. Let's start off with Dark Horse Comics, first of 4 issues, Arcana Royale. This is a comic that reminds me of a couple old Twilight Zone episodes. We see this young woman here, she's a poker player, and she's been invited to play into like this high stakes supernatural game where supernatural beings get to monsters and gods and stuff like that and play, and the stakes are very high, and she does fairly well in the first couple of games and starts to rub people the wrong way because she is pretty confident in that and a good player as well, and just not one of these people. She's a regular human, where these people are, like I said, monsters and supernatural people and that, and ends up getting her ass kicked at the end after winning in a game. So she moves on to the next round of play, and we'll see what happens there. Absolute Martian Manhunter #2. This book's been pretty crazy so far. We find out more in this issue that John Jones isn't actually an alien himself. He's a human who's been kind of possessed by this alien essence, which is the Martian Manhunter. And yeah, that's what's going on here. So he's been kind of tripping out this whole time. He's an FBI agent, overworked, super stressed out. So he thinks all this stuff going on, which is the alien stuff, is him having like a nervous breakdown and that. So he does maybe start to believe a little bit more in this issue that the alien is convincing him that this is all true and that. And as this is happening on, he has to do a little bit of FBI work at the same time. So encounters a guy, terrorist type of person, and the Martian and John are able to take it down working together. And this gives John more of a overall view and allows him to see what's actually happening in that. So taps into more of what's going on. So this book is super psychedelic and trippy, which is kind of neat and expected to be when you have an alien kind of life force, alien brain essence possessing your body with you. So that's been a lot of fun. I really like that. Same thing here with issue 7, Absolute Wonder Woman. This has been a great series as well. The differences in this is not as big as the Martian Manhunter stuff compared to the original Wonder Woman, but it is still pretty cool. Diana herself is Wonder Woman. She's a princess from hell. She only has one arm. One arm was sacrificed at one point. And she's kind of like a dark witch as well, too. So in this book here, we see her, how she got out of hell the first time, and just her relationships with some of these other gods, and that she's kind of doing like a gladiator thing to escape hell the second time in that here. So really great artwork, lots of awesome supernatural, mythological god stuff, and yeah, just a great story so far. They're really telling it really cool, how she wants to be this hero, but at the same time is this, citizen of hell. So lots of fun there as well. Issue 2 of Marvel's new reboot of The Amazing Spider-Man. Been pretty good, the first issue. We see Peter getting a job at this lab and running into a childhood friend that we've never seen before, but they're introducing him. Seems to be a pretty big story part so far. They've introduced this new villain called Hell's Gate, I believe it is. He doesn't really show up too much in this issue, just more of Peter investigating what was happening with that rhino attack last time, and seeing that he kind of has like some kind of fear serum that's been pumped into him somehow. So he's dealing with kind of like this hallucinations and visions from being scared. So great artwork and adventure in here so far as well. I do like the way they're going so far. And at the end, they do introduce Itsy Bitsy there from the Deadpool team-up series. So nice to see her brought into the regular stuff as well, too. Issue 2 of Images Crisis Event, or sorry, Sorted Crisis Events. This is a book about a world where there's always like crisis events going on, like all the time, almost like weather events. So you could be walking down the street and get a warning on your phone that there's a time displacement going up ahead, and that's what's going on in this issue. There's um, dinosaurs popping in and out of this one area, but at the same time too, it's also showing about this one guy and his whole life, how it ties to blood and I won't say sacrifices per se, but kind of like sacrifices because both him and his father before him work in a meat slaughter plant, the kill floor. So sees him dealing with that and kind of, having a hard time dealing with reality and just almost kind of like depression and stuff like that because of his job and a hard life. So this is all going on, like I said, as towards the end there's a dinosaur attack. So neat artwork, kind of a sad, depressing type of story about a regular dude who has to have a crappy job and deal with depression at the same time. And then these dinosaurs attacking as well. So I know a lot of people have been really liking that book. I think it's been okay, but some people have just think that's the best book out there. Batman 159, this is the second part of the Hush 2 sequel. We can see on the cover there some great artwork. Here we do see Batman dealing with the fallout from finding Hush last time. Hush has left the Joker almost dead, and it's kind of put Batman in a position to either go after him or save the Joker and not let him die. So obviously being Batman, he chooses to not see the life die and goes and gets Joker some help. So because of this, a lot of people are like, why are you doing this? They can't believe it. And one of them being Red Hood, who has, of course, his own history with the Joker, being that Joker killed him back when he was Robin. So those two, Batman and Red Hood, end up getting a fight over it. And we kind of find out towards the end that maybe Red Hood's working with Hush in all this. So furthering along the Hush 2 story. This book actually came out last week, and I thought I reviewed it for you guys, but I guess I forgot. So I'm including it in this week because this is part 1, and part 2 comes out of the We Are Yesterday storyline. Part 1 here is in, like I said, World's Finest, and then it comes into this week's Justice League Unlimited, which we usually cover. So we see here, a story about Gorilla Grodd, kind of showing the world about his Crystal City there, where it was always hidden before, the Hidden Ape City, flashing about it. But now Grodd has drawn attention to it, and he takes Batman and Superman to help deal with it because Grodd has taken over it, kind of like in a coup. He ends up, defeating some of these guys, and we end up finding out that it was all of a trap there, and Grodd is really there to mind swap and take over Superman's body. We also find out too that later on in here that Grodd has developed these powers since the Absolute Powers crossover last year, and his powers have been amplified now because he actually has the missing powers that Martian Manhunter had. So he's somehow those powers were returned to him instead of Martian Manhunter, making him even more powerful, and he has able to kind of jump time in that. So we find out that in the Justice League stuff, that the Inferno group that is out causing terrorist actions across the globe, and that is actually the Legion of Doom, which is kind of weird because Legion of Doom, some of them aren't even villains anymore. But we find out then and now that Grodd has the ability to, it's a time travel, and he's gone back and picked up the original Legion of Doom from the old days, like the Super Friends stuff, and brought them to this time. And that's who is the Inferno, so now he's dealing with that. And we also see, too, how Grodd in this issue has tricked and manipulated Livewire to be his traitor in that. So that is explained quite a bit in here too. So this has been a pretty good thing so far. I'm enjoying it, and there's one more issue to go, and that will be in the Batman Superman World's Finest Annual, which I believe is out next week. All right. The first of 2 G.I. Joe books this week. This is the 4th one-shot of the Silent Missions. There's one more coming next week. I believe it's Duke. This one is Roadblock. This one's a lot of action and a lot of fun too. Again, these silent missions are homages to the original G.I. Joe silent issue back in 21 with Snake Eyes and the introduction of Storm Shadow. So we see here we have this base that Roadblock and a few other Joes are obviously trying to take over and deal with these guys. So again, Roadblock's a pretty awesome character. He's just kind of bullying his way through with taking out people. He's also rescuing Lady J there, who's pretty much almost one of my favorites. And in usual Roadblock fashion, he has his giant gun there that's almost like something you would see on a copter, and he takes down a big Cobra plane. So you see them dealing with a few remaining soldiers out in this wooded area, and they're waiting for their pickup. So another good action issue. Not as good as that last one, but still pretty good. Our second G.I. Joe book is the Energon Universe one, so the one that has G.I. Joe together with the Transformers in that, which everybody's been loving. Joshua Williamson's been doing a great job on these, and this is kind of the end of that first arc. We have the confrontation of Cobra Commander and Duke here, and Cobra Commander here is pretty awesome the way they have him. They've kind of updated him a little bit where he's not so much a coward, but he is pretty badass in that. So him and Duke go at it. We see how Cobra Commander himself has his own gadgets and technology in that, because that's what he is, a scientist from that other Cobra Law place, and he's been working with that Transformers Energon energy. And we see everybody trying to get away from there because we know that place is going to blow. So if it does blow, Cobra ends up being able to mind control everybody within a 5-mile radius. It's like a mind bomb. So Duke and Cobra Commander are fighting to shut it down, and choices are made. So really great book. And at the end of it, we see another Transformers G.I. Joe kind of introduction here. So we see Brawn here, who apparently was masquerading as an army jeep. So that was a lot of fun. I did not know that was going to happen at the end there. So that's why I do these reviews a day or so later, sometimes even a couple days later than reviews, then they come out. So people get a chance to read them before I spoil them here. All right, the third issue of One World Under Doom. This is that series where Doom has kind of taken over the world in a peaceful manner. He's managed to convince people that he's this great hero, especially using the Sorcerer Supreme powers. So then the heroes here heroes and villains now are working together, trying to figure out how to take out Doom and what's his end story here. And as usual, we see that heroes and villains working together doesn't always work out. Most of the time it doesn't. And we also see Doom is getting what he wants in that as well still too. So this is probably one of the better action-packed issues. I really like this one as well too. But at the same time too, this whole kind of event seems to be a little underwhelming so far, when it should be quite big for what's at stake. From DC, we have issue 2 of the limited series of Peacemaker. It's Vigilante and Eagly. So this is a lot of fun book here. This is set in that James Gunn Peacemaker John Cena universe, and it exactly what it sounds like. You got a story that's continuing on from last issue, where Vigilante thinks that Peacemaker's been kidnapped by this robot group, which he hasn't. He's just been lying and hiding out and avoiding them. So, but he's going through there. He thinks these killer robots are trying to take over, and he's going around being his destructive, murderous, he thinks he's doing justice, vigilante self. So a lot of fun there. Very adult there. So like I said, much like the Peacemaker TV show. The second story that's been going through this issue and the last issue is with actually Peacemaker and Eagly himself. They've been kind of kidnapped by these people, and they're having some fun there. So again, more Peacemaker stuff. So check it out if you enjoy the Peacemaker stuff. This is probably my pick of the week. I didn't expect it to be that awesome. I thought it'd be good. But yeah, this was great. Spider-Man is my favorite all time, and I am a huge fan of Predator. But when I find these, Alien crossover books and Predator crossover books to be kind of, I wouldn't say boring, but follow the same plan. But this one's super awesome. This almost should fall under like the red bands that they have for Marvel. Like they have the Black Label in DC, and Marvel for the last year or so they have the red band stuff where it's like almost like an adult version of stuff because the violence in that. And this would definitely fall under this category. Very, very graphic. We have a new Predator. They refer to him and call him the Skinner. And he goes around doing that where he's like not only hunting down people, he takes trophies in that. He's like a serial killer where he skins them and wears their faces and body parts in that. So he's around in New York doing his Predator thing. And Spider-Man starts being involved because, like I said, he thinks it's a serial killer and ends up finding out it's this Predator. So super graphic, way more violent and graphic than you would normally see for a Marvel book or for especially a Spider-Man book. But yeah, just really enjoying this. So even at the end here, the Predator shows up wearing one of his victims' skins on his face. So great artwork, great action. And a good story so far, so check it out. Of course, Kraven shows up at the end there to hunt down, so we'll see who's the real Predator. One of my favorite books this year so far, we got the last issue of Mad Kate String. It's about this woman here. You can see her on the cover there with the pink hair. She's this kind of psychic woman who has the ability to see people's connections. She sees them as strings, either blue or black. Black strings connect people for murders, if they've been murdered. And the other string, the blue string, is for people who've slept together and that, so have had sexual relations. She, like I said, is kind of like a medium. She sometimes works for the police as an advisor, helps people work on cases. Of course, this is shunned upon by a lot of people, not believed in. And at the end of this story, she's been involved in kind of this kidnapping murder mystery with some good people and bad guys as well. And she's currently been taken by the killer in that. So he's trying to get rid of her and also just find out what she knows and what she's told people in that. So really great detailed artwork here. It is neat seeing not just this murder mystery, but this woman, how she has these connections to, or these abilities to see people's connections, and she figures out towards this one interrogation here at the end that she starts seeing the black line form between her and him, knowing that so she's gonna die. So she manages to get out, and we'll see the great climatic conclusion. I don't want you to see it all just yet, so I do want you to read it. And it looks like I said this is the end of the series, but I'm hoping they bring out another volume and more stories because it's a neat story and a neat character. Third and final issue of the Black Label DC Superman Last Days of Lex Luthor. Like I said, the Black Label stuff's a little bit more adult. Nothing really gory or anything too much adult in these Superman stories so far. This one showing how Lex Luthor is dying and there's no way to save him, and Superman's doing all he can to visiting every avenue possible to try and save Lex from this from dying from this disease and that. So we see a lot of it has to do with Brainiac as well. So great story so far. I enjoyed this a lot, seeing the relationship between the two, especially Lex and Superman. very complicated over the years. So we'll see what happens there, and a little bit of a twist ending there as well too. So, which to be expected being a Black Label. We'll follow that up with issue 25 of the Superman series. This is milestone 25th issue, but this also again ties into that Summer of Superman stuff that we saw last week here. So this kind of wraps up again more of that current storyline. It leads. We all think it's going to be a Superman versus Lex Luthor big battle in here, and that is true. But again, it's not the Lex Luthor that is currently going on, who has lost his memories and of being evil Lex Luthor and is currently trying to be good and work with Superman. This here, we see Percy all this time has been working behind the scenes to finish this Lex Luthor clone, which he's made before, which is the Bizarro clone. So this is Lex Luthor and Superman genes spliced together, and she's brought him back as the ultimate Lex Luthor, and that's who's trying to wipe out Superman here. So the current Lex, the real Lex, shows up here and is also trying to deal with it as well, and also ends up trying to not be the evil Lex. So that's a great thing that wraps up there. I do like that evil Lex clone character, kind of like a Bizarro Lex maybe. And so we see that, and we also see the leading into some of these new story threads that are going to happen throughout the rest of the Summer of Superman. One being that Lois has lost those Supergirl or Superwoman powers, which I was never too happy with to begin with. And finally, we have the last issue of the prequel series for the Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. Originally, I had no intentions of reading this series, but I had seen the show and I liked it, and then I read the book and it was great. So I read this, lots of fun. I do like that Dan Parent cover on the side there on the left. Picked that up myself. He's in the Calgary Comic-Con this weekend, actually. So yeah, the last issue, Spidey was thrown out of the skyscraper by the enforcers last time, and he does manage to, save himself before splatting on the ground. You see him, finally figuring out how to beat these guys, and manages to get Silvermane sent to jail as well. So good way to end the series. I don't know if they'll do any more of these. I guess it depends on if they have more of the cartoon series itself. But either way, this was a great kind of a prequel adaptation of that series, and great for everybody to read, young and old. All right, everybody, that's what I read this week. Hope you saw something here you liked and maybe brought attention to something you weren't aware of. And then you can go out and support your LCS and all these fine comic creators. Until next time, like, share, subscribe, and we'll talk to you later.